There's a God who reigns above, the God of all creation, the God of power, the God of love, the God of our salvation. He fills my soul with sweet relief and makes my faithless murmur cease. To God all praise and glory, to God all praise and glory, to God all praise and glory, to God all praise and glory. Yeah!
Welcome, folks. We're so glad you're here again. I'm Ray, one of the pastors at Front Street United Methodist Church in Burlington, along here with my buddy Stefan, who's also a pastor at Front Street. And welcome to the table for this time about the table. And so you're probably caught on that weekly we're going to be sitting around a table somewhere, somehow, talking to folks and sharing with folks. Stefan, who are these crazy people we're sitting with today?
Crazy people is a probably pretty good definition.
Pretty good
for the two of
definition,
you,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yes.
kind of works. At least for half. For half.
One half or the other.
Yeah, that's right. That's
These
exactly
are,
right.
these are Jean and Elizabeth.
It's
And
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
to my 3-year-old,
Three-year-old.
she mixes up the L and the B, Abilizeth or something like that.
That sounds like a biblical name then.
It does.
Yeah, one that you can't pronounce.
Well, Elizabeth's biblical.
Yeah,
too,
that's
so.
right. That's exactly right. And also, they really are like second grandparents or third grandparents, whatever it is.
We call them our adopted grandparents,
grandparents.
to our children. Yes,
Because that's important because it says a lot about them.
we've picked up adoptive grandparents along the ways, and it's always wonderful because we don't choose them. The adoptive grandparents choose our kids.
Yeah.
They don't choose us. It's
Yes,
not
we
about Sarah
chose
and
you
I.
too.
So we're glad you're here. So now that we just want, tell us about this table. This is where family eats. If they come, this is where the family's going to be.
Yes.
In this beautiful yellow room.
This was my grandmother's table, and Jean. It's been refinished twice. Jean refinished it recently, and it originally had 13 leaves.
What?
Yeah.
So Jean can tell you about
So
it.
this whole room might not have been
Yes.
large enough for it, huh?
It would have gone that way.
Way, yeah.
You can stretch it out. You can stretch out. It goes all the way to the island.
Yeah.
We don't have all the leaves now. And the thing was, the joke was every time the wife got pregnant,
They added another leaf.
they added another leaf.
Oh my heavens.
And he didn't use the same wood every time. So in looking at the table, some of it's oak, some of it's pine. There's a couple of pieces that are walnut, and there's one poplar. And if he didn't have anything wide enough, he would put pieces together.
It's space.
So, and it's all wooden
And it's got little
hooks that go together,
Little
so
dowels.
it goes out like an accordion. But everything is wood, hooked and locked in together.
hooked in together. Isn't that something?
I grew up in Whitaker's,
And Whitaker's.
and which is near Rocky Mount, and she died when I was a year old. So I never.
Ate with her at this table.
Mm-mm. And that little table that
The children's table.
Gemma and Ellie sit at was my great grandfather had that built for my mother when she was 2 years old in 1913.
No way.
Everybody's used it. It's gone
Yeah.
down and so
Isn't that wonderful?
it is. It's a precious little table.
Yeah.
And so
I wish we could listen carefully and hear the stories that have been shared around this table. Because it's probably at least 100 years old.
absolutely.
Yeah, at least 100 years old. Well, tell us about your family.
Have a blended family is what I call it. Elizabeth and I were married 16 years ago.
Uh-huh.
She has 2 children, and so do I.
Mhm.
So in the blended family, there's 4
Mhm.
that range from 38, 34, and 33.
Oh, wow. So your kids are right there.
So that's
Yeah.
how
And
we
they-
got together.
Yeah. So how did you two meet?
At Front
Church.
Street.
At Front Street.
Church.
You met at church. Oh my gosh.
And when people realized that we'd known each other, they started putting us on committees together.
To get to know each other better, huh?
and they we do things, and people would say, "Oh, come sit here," and they were doing so. Oh, they were doing something in the sanctuary, putting in the organ, I think, and we met in the fellowship hall. And his son finally said, "Elizabeth, you and Stephen come sit with us." And then we started sitting together.
Oh,
And
which was huge.
when Stephen and Leanna got married, they called and said, "Mom, will you help plan the wedding in Burlington?" So we had the wedding at a venue here in Burlington. And before the wedding, we had everybody come to
Was
the
here?
house. And we had in-laws, outlaws, up, down, yours,
and
mine,
exes
ours.
and
Yep. And they
And-
were living in Tampa Bay, Florida,
yeah.
but decided that they wanted to have it here. in
And
Burlington.
actually, it was a destination wedding because the only people that were from Burlington were Gene, me, his brother and sister-in-law, and one of Stephen's boyhood friends.
Oh wow.
And everybody else came from somewhere else.
Oh my heavens.
And that's happened several times. We had a shower for Leanna here, and everybody came from out of town. And for this, it'll pretty much be the same thing.
So do you think that's because people are comfortable with you two?
Yes.
I think so.
They know that you're going to do everything you can to tear down those walls, those awkward, tense times that
Yeah.
you're
That's one thing I know well about both of you is that you're not afraid to kind of break open some boundaries a little bit, which is a blessing to a lot of people that I know that you shared life with. In some ways, it kind of reminds me of the little bit of craziness at this table, how it has all the different types of wood that are all pieced together to make this one long structure.
You're right. I hadn't thought about it,
And
but you're
that-
right.
Yeah.
Because we're, like you said, we're very accepting, and
And-
and people just get along. And with Stephen and Leanna wanting to have it here, I think it all centered around us, not because it's us, but because
Because
of
you're here.
us.
This is
because
home.
we're here.
This is home.
It's a home. It's an anchor.
yeah.
They're always welcome here.
Yeah. So this table, you started out talking about the different wood in this table. So this table's it's a blended table.
Yeah.
It is.
It's a blended table. It's not one wood. It's a mix match. It's a hodgepodge, but look how beautiful it ends up being, you know? And that's the story you're telling, really. I asked that about awkwardness because we're really talking about what could have been it was for some people, a very awkward time. You want to talk about Big Guy?
I do. So this is a great place to jump into the Zacchaeus story. I think in particular the connection that you made with me is that in-laws and outlaws, the people that are outcasts that typically wouldn't be invited to a dinner party. They'd be thought of maybe, but still left to the wayside. Zacchaeus is a great example of that because he is a Jewish man and in any other circle would have been well accepted to all of his peers. But he's known as the chief tax collector. And that's a big threat, worry for a lot of his community. So they push him off to the side very easily. Not only is he thought of as cheating money out of them, but he is the chief of those cheaters. And so regardless of what his family background was, he is an outlaw for sure. And the story goes on, those are the backdrops of that story. But we see a picture in this short text of Zacchaeus, a short-statured man, unable to see above the crowd on his own, and yet makes an attempt when he hears this man named Jesus is coming by the street near him. And he climbs up into a tree. And not only is, we wonder in this place, not only is he looking to see Jesus, but there might be some sense that he wants to be seen by Jesus too. We wonder about that, to get above the crowd. And wonderfully for him, Jesus sees him.
I always thought it was for a grown man to climb up in a tree.
It probably seemed a little bit absurd to a lot of people around. But there he is, above the rest of the crowd.
He's willing to put himself out there.
He's willing to put himself out there. He takes at least one step towards Jesus in this small way. And Jesus recognizes that. Now, Jesus is not the type of person, Jesus is more in line with you guys, the extended table, obviously, adding different pieces to it, adding different players to this game of life that Jesus is creating in this upside-down world that he's creating. And so Jesus, excitedly and wonderfully, takes maybe 2 or 3 steps back to Zacchaeus.
Or 100.
A lot.
Yeah.
To say, not only, Zacchaeus, do I see you, but also, I'm going to come eat at your house.
What I like about Zacchaeus is the fact that not only did he climb the tree, there's always a crowd. Jesus saw him, sought him out, didn't go through all the pleasantries. He just said, by the way, I'm coming to eat at your
Yeah.
house,
Yeah.
over the crowd. Because the other part of that is the crowd then probably gasp and go, wait, what?
Well, Scripture says they murmured among them. They were grumbling.
Yeah.
They were grumbling.
A lot of other people would have gone through the talk about the weather before we
Right.
get to that point.
Yeah.
Right.
But for whatever reason, Jesus busted past that little nitty gritties of the relationship to say, we're going to have a meal together.
And he was excited about it. He jumped down from the tree.
He was befuddled. Even the Scripture says he's befuddled. He couldn't. And part of the reason we think he's befuddled, I think, Stefan, is he would have never been accepted by Jewish people, the people of Israel, and certainly not by a rabbi. They were the standard bearers,
Right.
and that was just never done. And even the people at murmuring start saying, why is he going home with this buffoon? That's our enemy. He's taken their side, the Roman government side. He's not on our side. But then he talks about, you are Abram's son.
It's
There's a lot more between there.
There's a lot more between there. They have a meal, and it seems as though at the end of the meal there is a rebuilding of something pretty cool. Like we said, he started out at the beginning of his life born into the Jewish culture, the Jewish family. He was there, but then his choices in life led him to be an outcast. And at the end of this, Jesus calls and tells him, you are a son of Abraham. Always have been, always will be. It is a moment for the people who are around that crowd to see Jesus is accepting Zacchaeus as a member of us. Jesus is the foremost leader for...
I would say even restored him, because I'm not even sure that Zacchaeus would have seen himself as part of the community anymore.
That's right.
But Jesus restores him, not partially, not a little bit, but says, you've been one of us forever, and I say you're that again. It's just a powerful scene.